Youngpreneurs Podcast, episode number 146 with your host, Victor Ahipeni. What's up, world? Another day, another podcast. And today I've got Benjamin Brandt. He's a certified financial planner and he helps people retire faster with what they got, no matter where you are. And there's a ton of value, particularly for your finances if you are a young entrepreneur getting started, on ways that you can make sure you're utilizing all this newfound wealth that you are going to and have already created. So we delve into a lot of the financial side of things and how Benjamin got into his realm of financial investing. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of value, as it's something we haven't necessarily covered in a huge amount of depth so far on this show. So if you enjoy the show, make sure that you leave a rating and review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear what you think about the show. And also, if you enjoy the episodes, jump over to passiveincomeyoung.com, where you can find all our previous back catalogue. There is over 140 plus episodes with other inspiring entrepreneurs from all around the world. And while you're at it, jump on, and there is a free 4-video series that I created just for all of you out there that you can jump on and boost your business and get it online for $0 down. Even if it's just an idea at the moment, it'll take you through the full process to get online for $0 and start making some money before you start to grow it. So apart from that, guys, grab your calculators out so you can start seeing where you are from a financial point of view. And in the meantime, guys, keep living life on your own terms. You're listening to the Youngpreneurs Podcast, the number one resource online for under 35-year-olds, where we chat twice a week to the most inspiring entrepreneurs in the world. We have it all. If you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or actionable tips to help you transition from that job into a business, or if you're ready to take that business to a whole new level, then this is the place to be. Get ready to live life on your own terms. Youngpreneurs, welcome to another episode of the Youngpreneurs Podcast. I'm your host, Victor Ahipeni, and thank you for sitting in and joining us today. I know you could be anywhere doing anything, and I value your choice to sit with me and today's guest, Benjamin Brandt, who is the founder of Retirement Starts Today and Retirement Starts Today Radio, a podcast that's helping people make better decisions to be able to retire with what they've got and what they're doing. But we're going to delve into that and a hell of a lot more. Welcome to the show, Benjamin.
I'm excited to be here, Victor. Thanks for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. Now, I love to get a bit of an understanding about what growing up looked like for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people out there use different excuses that so and so had lots of money when they were growing up, or there was this or that or something or other else, and we often see that isn't the case when it comes to the people that jump on the show. So was entrepreneurship and business minded things, was it always ingrained into you? Was it always something you were destined to do? And what did I guess growing up look like for you?
Growing up, entrepreneurship wasn't really a thing that I knew about. I grew up from pretty meager means here in Bismarck, North Dakota. My single mom. I'm the oldest out of 3 kids. My mom worked at Wendy's most of my childhood, so there was not a lot of money, a lot of dumpy apartments, and moving around a lot. But fortunately, my grandparents were able to scrape some money together and send me to a private school, and that's where I was first introduced to entrepreneurship.
Yeah, nice. And when you got to that, because it's quite funny, I grew up low socioeconomic area, single mum, and got a bit of a scholarship to a private school, so kind of a similar-ish background. What was the biggest? I mean, I went from, and I'm sure it was probably similar to you, I went from a really low socioeconomic school to a really high socioeconomic school. What was some of the differences, or did you see any differences from the kids, or was it more from the education side of things that you got?
I would say the difference that I noticed was the lack of difference, because I would see some of these kids as parents, and they would be doctors and lawyers, and they would own small businesses, and I would look at them and say, these people aren't really that much different than I am. So it is just being exposed in in the early part of high school and through high school, just to know that this thing called imposter syndrome exists, where you're going to think that you're not good enough until you see somebody that is able to do it, and then you realize, well, they're not that much different than I am. I think a lot about the 4 minute mile. I don't know the name escapes me, who ran the 4 minute
Well,
mile first, but it was thought to be impossible, that the human body couldn't hold up under the conditions of a 4 minute mile. But then as soon as someone did it, everyone could do it. And a lot of people did it immediately after. So I kind of thought about that, and I saw some of these guys that were fantastically wealthy, more wealthy than I could ever imagine in the 10th grade, and they're just regular guys. So I thought, man, I really need to get on a path to figure out how I can do this for myself, how I can work for myself, solve a problem for other people, and make money doing it.
nice. And so after school, what did that path look like?
Well, fortunately, my humble beginnings followed me to college. So I really didn't have, my grandparents had saved up a little bit of money for me to go to college, but they had also passed on some extreme thriftiness to me. So I did not want to spend any money on college. So I decided to join the North Dakota National Guard. So I did a semester of community college because that was very inexpensive. And then I did a semester of basic training. And then September 11th happened. So life was not the same for anyone that was enlisted in the military after that.
And then when you're in the military, so I mean, it's. I mean, I haven't been in the military, so this is me having to think. But it's a great place for people to have a lot of options put in front of them from an educational standpoint. But I guess when things like September 11 come around, it also goes, all right, your education gets put on hold, and you go and do what you have to do.
That's right. Uncle Sam calls, and he says it's time to pay for that free college.
Yeah. And so, what did you study? I guess while you're in the armed services.
Well, they found a 19-year-old version of myself, and they said, we'll give you an extra signing bonus if you learn how to become a combat engineer. And what a combat engineer is, which sounds fantastic to a 19-year-old, but it's everything to do with explosives and clearing minefields and things like that. So I said, sign me up, extra money, and I get to do some exciting action movie stuff. I'm all about it. Now, so, I'm 30. I'm 35 now with 3 kids, and I can't imagine that version of me ever existed, but apparently it did.
And with that thriftiness that you did have, and I guess if you're away on tours or you're away in there, a lot of money can be saved. Was that the case when you're in there? And is that where the wealth management side of things started to come about?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to be a financial advisor in about 10th grade. I took a personal finance class, and I really kind of fell in love with it. My grandpa was very thrifty, and he was, back when CDs actually paid money, he would show me his version of the Excel spreadsheet, which was, of course, just graphing paper back in the 80s, and he would show me all of his lists of compound interest. So that was always ingrained in my mind. But, living in the desert in a tent for a year and a half, you are actually able to save quite a bit of money. So I did do that.
Was that personal finance class at school?
It was at school. Yep.
Wow, that's quite forward thinking from the school, and something that's still not in a lot of schools, is it? I mean,
yeah, we learned how to balance checkbooks, and learned what credit cards were, and learned what stocks were, and played the stock picking game, and it was very impactful to my future.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that one class can kind of dictate the rest of your future, but also open your eyes up to it. Because I mean, it's the thing that I continually talk to a lot of people about, and they're like, man, why don't we have some common sense things? But I guess you have to have common sense people to teach common sense things, and often the teachers don't know how to balance a checkbook or anything about credit cards and things like that. So,
well, that's where the free market steps in, where the government might be lacking, and we have wonderful podcasts to listen to that can teach us those things.
Exactly. So when you jumped out, how did you get into the wealth management financial advisor side of things?
So my grandparents had a relationship with a person that they go to church with for a Fortune 500 insurance company that was faith-based, Christian denomination-based. And so I did an internship with them, fresh off the boat from my military deployment. And then I passed a few insurance exams, went back to school to finish my arts and science economics focus. Didn't actually finish college at that point. Passed my securities exam and then jumped right into selling financial products.
Yeah, okay. And how how has that kind of evolved? How's the business changed? Or so you're working for this company, and then how did you get to where you are now, I guess?
Two things happened. One, I fell in love broadly with personal finance to start, but then that focus really started to narrow into the what I felt the heaviest stress areas for clients were around learning how to live off of their savings when they retired.
Yeah.
How do I turn this portfolio into income? How do I make it last forever? And so that's where a financial advisor is needed the most, is where people are the most stressed. So I kept focusing in more and more on that area. And then unfortunately in the product sales business, your manager is kind of always looking over your shoulder and wondering where the sales are. And that just made me more and more uncomfortable when someone is asking you, when should I retire and give you all my life savings? There can be pretty big conflicts of interest when your manager is looking over your shoulder and say, maybe he could retire this year, not next year. So that gradually became insurmountable. And on my 33rd birthday, I sent them an email that said I'm done and I'm starting my own gig.
Nice. And what is it that is it that helping people create that ongoing source of income?
Right. So we do two things. We have a unique financial planning process that's 3 appointments. It's called the Retire Ready Blueprint. And we meet with the clients, we set goals, we assess how far they've come on those goals, and then we give them action items to this is how you retire. So that's kind of business model number one. And then business model number two is ongoing planning, so that for people that don't want to do it themselves, they want someone to manage the money and create the portfolio and send them out their check every month. We do that too for a select group of clients that hire us to do that. So we have two items. One is the financial planning, and then one is the investment management. Both are laser focused just on that retired niche.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of, I'd be interested to know your take, because I guess it applies to anything in business, but you see a lot of, say, 40, 50-year-olds, and they hit panic mode because they have made a little bit of money, and they're going, oh, retirement's coming up. So they become really, they panic, but they become really risk adverse. They're like, I don't want to buy this investment property, or I don't want to put this into any, not necessarily risky shares, but they've also got the fear of educating themselves, which is, I guess, why you've got a done for you kind of package outside of just the planning side of things. Is that like a reoccurring thing? Because you get a 20-year-old and you can show them how to explode minefields, and they're like, oh yeah, this seems fine.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, what, putting something into investing into Snapchat? Yeah, that seems like a really solid long-term investment. So is that something that you see a lot? And how do you deal with that kind of mindset when you're trying to set up people's investment portfolios?
So fortunately for my client group, I don't know if that's the part of the country I live in or what it would be, but for the most part, they mostly have their act together by the time that they come to me. So I'm able to make minor tweaks and teach them how to live on this money forever. It is harder for a person that is close to retirement and does not have their act prepared, because it is never going to be one decision that prepares you for retirement. I always think it's kind of that, I think it's Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. It's 10,000 tiny decisions that are going to decide whether or not you're going to be financially successful. So a person that starts out in their 20s or 30s, they're much more able to make those 10,000 tiny decisions that are going to set them on the right path. Living on a budget, making sure that you live on less than you make, avoiding debt, avoiding credit cards, all those tiny decisions that you do over and over again on a daily basis. But if you start at 52, you've still got to make all of those decisions, but you've got to be much more accurate with them. And there's so much less room for error. So fortunately, I do some pro bono work, and I'm able to give some guidance to those people. But as far as my ongoing clients, most of them are very well financially prepared. They just need an additional assistance from me to kind of take it to the next level and bring it all the way home.
And so when you were jumping into this whole market, so we're looking at what, like,
initially 2011 when you're jumping into the, is that right? Around there?
It was 2014. September of 2014, I started my new company.
Yeah, but when you first jumped into the financial side of things, even working for a company, was that about 2011, 2010?
I interned in 2006 and I started full time in 2007.
Okay, so I'm interested in that aspect because you're obviously still working with clients then, but then America just turned to shit. And we've all kind of seen the GFC and the back end of that. What was the mindset of people then? Like, was it like, oh shit, or was it?
It was panic. There was opportunity for a few people, but for most people, it was absolute panic. And I was so new into my career that I had not established enough rapport and I had not established enough clients. You're starting out with no clients at all. So it's mostly just family members and things of that nature. So I didn't get to experience a lot of that, but working with some of the veteran advisors, I was able to see that through the relationships that they had built, in many cases, they were able to have, encourage the clients to hold on to their portfolio positions and rebalance and ride it out. And if they kept an even keel, most people had their money back in 2 or 3 years, through rebalancing and not panicking. So that was really meaningful to me as a young advisor to say, hey, these relationships are important because people are trusting you with their future.
Yep. And so I want to go through a few actionable tips for anyone out there listening, but I want to start there on, if people are listening and that 20-year-old person out there, they're going to see multiple financial crashes over the next however many years that they're in this world. How can you future-proof yourself from a financial or try and mitigate risk, I guess, from a financial standpoint, for these foreseen things that we don't necessarily know exactly when they're going to strike?
I can tell you exactly how to do that, and it's got nothing to do with the stock market or the economy or anything like that. You just have to decide to be content with your position in the world. It's fantastic to have goals, and it's fantastic to want things, but if the sooner that you understand for yourself that that's not where happiness is deciding to be happy in your current situation, and doesn't matter what the economy is doing. And you're able. Can I swear on this show?
Sure.
You're able to say no to all the shiny shit in the world. And focus on your own thing and not what your neighbor has. And that's where contentment and true happiness lies.
Yep. And from a financial advisor standpoint, what are the key things that 20-year-old Joe should be doing now to set themselves up for to get those 10,000 small things in place now, if they're looking at their financial future and going, I should probably start looking into this and not putting the blinders on and just ignoring that this day is going to come one day. What would your suggestion be towards a 20-year-old's approach?
Do two things. You only need to do two things. Learn how to live on less than you make and save half of every raise. So if you get a 4% raise, increase in America, we have a 401k, which is the primary retirement vehicle that's employer sponsored. You get a 4% raise, dedicate 2% to your lifestyle and 2% into your savings, and you'll never have to worry about retirement.
Nice. And once people are retired, I know that's not necessarily at the forefront of everybody's thoughts, but how are you helping people be able to live off their retirement, their 401ks and things like that, or their saving vehicles that they've had ongoing?
We pursue very low-cost investing through exchange-traded funds and index funds. So we keep our portfolio costs very low, which provides more income for them to spend, which is, of course, why they saved up the money in the first place. But we try to focus a lot on the things that we can control. So that's our own behavior. So creating a financial plan, helping them understand the financial plan, and then understand that if they're going to be around for 30 more years, they're going to see quite a few recessions and stock market corrections, and just sort of game planning out, what is this going to feel like, and are we going to be able to stick to the plan? So, we don't pick sexy investments or, super hot stock tips. That's not really our thing. Our thing is more about behavior management and financial planning. So I know that's not, it's not sexy. Everybody is picturing the, the stock market guru that's guessing where all the stocks go. That guy might exist, but that's not me.
And with that, so just to let's say somebody, just for ease of sake, has got $1 million that they've put away to to be retire off, into investments. Are they, let's say, in a hypothetical world, just for numbers' sake, that you're trying to generate 10% return on investment each year? Is that, say, that they might live off $60,000 or $70,000 of that, and then for those future, future dips in the market and things, they've got that safety net there? Or is it, they live off the 100K that they're making, and then just keep that million aside to continue to generate them income? Like, how does that approach occur?
Well, there's a couple ways to look at it. The mathematical way would be to look at, if your average retirement is 30 years long, what would be the highest amount of money that I could take out per year over that 30-year period that has never run out of money? And that study has been done, and it's called the 4% rule. So the worst case scenario over a 30-year period, how much of your original portfolio value could you take out and adjust for inflation and never run out of money? So that amount is 4% or $40,000 a year per million. Now, I wouldn't start with the math. Where I would start with clients is trying to create some financial planning and some behavior patterns. So visiting with them about what their goals are, what they want to be when they grow up, so to speak. Most of my clients are 60 years old, but what does this next chapter look like? And really plan, without talking about numbers right away, plan for what this next chapter looks like, and then circle back and work on budgeting and look at what those numbers are. So maybe a person doesn't need 50,000 or 60,000 or 100,000. Maybe they need 25,000, and the next passion that they're going to pursue is going to earn them some part-time income. So the best outcome that I can create for a client is creating a lifestyle with them that they don't want to retire from.
Yep. Cool. And with your business since 2014, how's it been going?
It's been going fantastic. We're experiencing double-digit growth year over year. We're profitable. I don't know what more I could ask for. I gave all the staff a raise last month. That was the first time we did that, and that felt pretty good. So we'll try to do that again.
So what does your team look like, and how's it how's it formed and come about?
All of our employees, myself and two others, are legacy employees from the other company.
Okay, nice. So
it's myself and two support staff.
Yeah, cool. And in the kind of the next 2 years, where do you see the business going, or where do you want it to go?
So our assets under management are around 35 million. I thought a minimum viable product, for my business would be 50 million. Yep. And I thought a permanent business would look like 100 million. So that's our plan, is to break through both of those barriers and see where the rest takes us.
Okay. So year over year, I mean, it seems like it'll be on track at that.
I think so. Growing the blog and growing the podcast and, all the other things that we do in the community are garnering our attention. We appear on TV every other week on a local TV station, and just letting people know we exist and that we're very unique locally. We don't sell financial products. We give advice for a fee, and try to be as transparent as possible. And we have a little bit of fun with that too. I actually hired a private investigator a few months back to cyber stalk me, and then I published the report on my website. So I thought that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek way to talk about advisor transparency is pretty important. But it's unlike anything other advisors around here are doing, and people are taking notice.
And so, what was the results from the cyber stalking?
He found some stuff. I delivered pizzas in high school, and I don't know if Australia ever had this, but there was when I was growing up, there was a 30 minutes or less, or it's free. Yep. So that developed some bad habits from my driving skills, and those may or may not have appeared in my background check.
So that's pretty awesome. But
so if you're curious, you can head over to retirementstartstoday.com/disclosures, and you can download my background check.
And just getting a few, I guess, kind of personal questions to round off. If is there a normal day? Like, do you have a normal day in the business, and what does it look like?
I do. Well, the business is similar and different every day. I meet with clients and I rebalance portfolios, and there's small fires in it that every business has that I put out. But my favorite part of the day is the morning. Uh, uh, Miracle Mornings. Hal Elrod wrote the book. And I follow his routine pretty closely. I don't meditate and I don't exercise in the morning. I exercise in the afternoon. But I've got 3 kids and we also do foster care. So the waking hours are chaos all the time. So I get up about 4:30 in the morning, and then I have from about 4:30 until about 6:30 or 7 before the rest of the house wakes up. So that's when I can blog and write and read. And that's my favorite time of the day.
Yeah, nice. It's it's an awesome book. He's he's impacted a lot of people, particularly entrepreneurs and business owners' lives, in the sense of getting more done with more, I guess, laser focus. I think, like, the more you can get done in the morning, it just takes a lot of stress off the rest of the day and gives you a good focus and a good morning standpoint to start with a win.
Start with a win, and then start with something difficult. The easy solution would be to hit the snooze bar on your phone, 14 times until it's 7 in the morning, right? But when you make a conscious decision to do something difficult in the morning, that positions the rest of your day for success, because there was a small barrier that was difficult. I jumped over it, and that's setting me up for success in the next encounter that I have. That's also the reason that for the last several weeks, including this morning, I've been taking cold showers, which is another difficult thing to do, but it's exhilarating and it's painful, but you're rewarded at the end. So that's something I would strongly recommend to people. Take a normal shower, then like the last 3 minutes, crank that sucker as cold as it'll go. It'll hurt like hell, but you'll be glad you did it.
We have to do that in Queensland, Australia, where I am in the summer anyway, just to be able to go to bed. Otherwise we overheat. But books and resources outside of your own, what has had a big influence on you, and what would you recommend, I guess outside of the Miracle Morning as well, to anyone out there who's listening for any aspect of their life?
Well, this changed the way that I think about financial planning and how I think about clients, but everyone should read it. It's called The Millionaire Next Door. It's Dr. Thomas Stanley. And it talks about, he was a researcher for a college, some sort of marketing department. The bio is actually kind of a little fuzzy to me now, but how he talks about how we have a lot of misconceptions about your average millionaire. We think about, a chauffeured Bentley at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago in Florida, but the reality is that it's a person that's never spent more than $100 on a watch and drives a Toyota Camry. And that really, I think that speaks to what we talked about earlier, is contentment and realizing that true happiness is in yourself and it's not in some shiny stuff on your wrist.
Yeah, well, I mean, we see it time and time again, like where the state that I live in Australia is, it was very heavily dominated with fly in, fly out mine workers and things like that. That make a lot of money in a short period of time, but they're also in the middle of the freaking desert, just mining coal or something like that. But the interesting thing with them is you'd see a lot of them. Like I remember when I was physioing, I was looking after one guy, and he bought a, I don't know, $50,000 or $60,000 Ford, like some kind of Ford Falcon or some kind of car. And the guy works just over, I think he worked 24 days straight a month, and then would have 10 days off. And I'm like, man, you're buying this. I was just like, you're making $150,000 a year before tax, and you just spent $60,000 of it on a car that you're going to have the potential to drive 120 days of the year, but you probably won't, because you usually go away somewhere else. And it was like, oh man, like, and then I've got friends who have got 6 going on 7-figure businesses, and their cars are held together by duct tape and rolling down the road. Again, it comes down to contentment, but it also comes down to just going, can I live between my means? Like, just because I've got $150,000 doesn't mean I should spend a third of my income on a car.
Right. Yeah. We have an almost identical, or had an almost identical situation here in North Dakota. We're very near the Bakken oil patch, which went through a boom phase and now is in a bust phase. which all commodities do eventually. And it was a lot of younger guys that made deep 6-figure salaries, but if you spend it all, when the bust time comes, you're not going to be able to survive, whether you're the business owner or the employee. You've got to have a rainy day fund or it's going to rain. The thing that I don't like about spending money on vehicles is every vehicle that exists on Earth is going to be worth zero someday, unless it's like Paul Newman's race car or something.
Yeah.
So to spend a big part of your disposable income on an asset that's going to be worth nothing is a bad idea. I've been fortunate and I'm pretty successful financially. My car is maybe worth $1,000. If I found a end of the rainbow sucker to buy it from me, maybe he would pay me $1,000, but cars just aren't my thing, So I'm probably not a good example, but
no, we're the same. We've got one car, so my partner can get to work. I walk because I like listening to books and listening to podcasts and getting out and getting some steps in for the day. So
my wife does have a pretty sweet minivan, but she's got to carry around 4 kids, so that's that wouldn't. The old view can't handle that many kids unless I put them in the trunk.
That's the cost of having the sweet minivan is you have to count around 3 kids with it.
Right.
So I just want to finish up there because I think there's a lot of value, a lot of takeaways, and I think people will get a lot from your journey because although your clientele is the 40 to 60-year-olds, I think it highlights to everybody that there's the opportunity to put those 10,000 small points in place earlier because every time is just a relative thing. If you start doing it when you're 40 to retire at 60, why not start doing it when you're 20 to be financially secure and not necessarily have to retire when you're 40? But
you've got so much more room for error. The sooner you start, the more room you have for error.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to just thank you and welcome you to the Youngpreneurs podcast family. If people want to find out more about you, where should they go? What should they do?
Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to Retirement Starts Today Radio, where you can hear me crack wise about retirement topics. And then the blog and the corporate site are the same moniker. RetirementStartsToday.com is my corporate site, and Retirement Starts Today Radio is the blog and podcast site. And I'm on all the social media, mostly on Twitter at RetireMeASAP.
Cool. So we'll link all of that at passiveincomeyoung.com so everyone can find that there, as well as all the past episodes. Benjamin, been an absolute pleasure, and look forward to connecting more and watching your business grow to the aims that you have.
Thank you so much, Victor. The pleasure was distinctly mine.
Thanks for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. This was proudly brought to you by the Podcast Institute, the #1 training resource to take your business from chasing leads to leads chasing you, and from an absolute amateur to a full-blown authority. If you're looking to take your business to the next level, then a podcast is the obvious answer. You can get national and global exposure in a very fast time, and it's just exactly what I've done with this podcast. So if you want to find out more, get a checklist on how you can get started for under $60, and to find out more through a small training video that I've prepared for you all, then please check out passiveincomeyoung.com/podcast training.